According to multiple reports, Eli Drinkwitz has agreed in principle on a contract extension at Missouri. Not only is this great news for Tiger fans, this is a move that quite simply Missouri had to make.
You are Locked On Mizzou, your daily podcast on the Missouri Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, all you true sons and daughters, I'm John Miller, your Mizzou mafioso and the central scrutinizer of Missouri Tigers football and basketball. And yes, I'm going to make the case of why Missouri absolutely had to extend Eli Drinkwitz, and frankly, why all of the naysayers online about this have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. Plus a huge raise, importantly, for the Missouri assistant coaches. Going to put that all in context for you on this, well, what a little emergency breaking news edition here of Locked On Mizzou on a Wednesday night on Thanksgiving. Before I get going, though, I do want to remind you today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the FanDuel app today. And obviously, this is massive news, and news that should make all Missouri fans happy. First of all, let's credit the breakers of the news here. Frank Cusimano says that the Missouri Board of Curators approved the extension for Coach Drinkwitz. Of course, at this 3 p.m. Board of Curators meeting that I talked about on my earlier episode of Locked On Mizzou here on this Wednesday. It puts it at 6 years. If he meets incentives, there will be years added. It's a raise for Drinkwitz, and his staff will be a top 4 highest paid staff in the SEC. Not signed yet, but likely very soon. Eli Hoff also confirms it more or less, saying the System Board of Curators approved a 6-year contract extension for Drinkwitz. Also, Gabe confirmed it as well, adding that Eli has said he's staying, but also, again, no ink is dried just yet. Also says, quote, "My impression talking through this today is this is basically a, quote, we'll do whatever you want and give it to you type of contract." And as far as I'm concerned, by all means, give Eli Drinkwitz everything he wants. And quite honestly, all of the people online, you notice, of course, the commenters who are Kansas fans, Illinois fans, Arkansas fans, whatever they might be, love to say, oh, well, great, he can't win the big one. Congratulations on your mediocrity, that type of thing. Well, I'm sorry, you frankly don't get it, because this is a move that Missouri had to make. Whether you think Eli Drinkwitz is a great coach or merely just a good coach, listen, he's not perfect. None of us are. He certainly has things he can work on. But the idea that the grass is greener on the other side, well, in this case, I think the grass will be greener where it is watered. And right now, Missouri simply doesn't need to take the garden or the farm and set the whole thing on fire. Maybe we need to move some shrubs around a little bit. There are things at the margins that Missouri can do, whether it's on special teams, maybe the passing game. Maybe it is shuffling around that assistant coaching staff a little bit with those said new dollars and cents. I'm not going to make any suggestions on this particular episode of the show. It's more of an off-season topic. But I'm just telling you, if you're Missouri and you have Eli Drinkwitz right now, if you've been upset, disappointed about the results here the last couple of seasons, well, that's somewhat understandable. But again, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because objectively speaking, you notice that it's based on all the reporting out there, Eli Drinkwitz was heavily considered basically as the number 2 option, plan B for LSU after Lane Kiffin. That should tell you a lot. There was talk about Penn State being very interested in Eli Drinkwitz. Again, these people are not stupid. That doesn't mean that Drinkwitz would necessarily be a home run in either one of those places. But what is very objectively true and obvious, if you just look at Missouri and especially their recruiting territory, their high school recruiting territory, the amount of 4- and 5-star players that Missouri puts out, the attendance that Missouri has versus the rest of the Southeastern Conference, the money spent at Missouri compared to the rest of the Southeastern Conference. Frankly, Missouri is at the bottom fourth, the bottom quadrant of the league in all of those particular categories. And yet, in terms of wins and losses, Missouri has outpaced that the last 3 seasons under Eli Drinkwitz. There's absolutely no doubt that Missouri has outpaced places like Auburn, for example, like Florida, for example. So just to hand wave that and act like, well, because the passing game has looked pretty pedestrian and ugly, frankly, at times for the last month or so, that's not a reason to burn it all down and start everything over. So obviously, to me, this is a great outcome for Missouri. And to this idea that Eli Drinkwitz can't win the big one, well, that's a future forward-looking statement. If you're in the stock market like I am, you know those are fraught with peril. What we can do is look back on the results. And if you want to say he hasn't won the big one, well, people said that about every great athlete and every great coach who's basically ever been until they actually did win the big one, unless you're, somebody like Patrick Mahomes who won it in year 2. Those people are few and far between. I'll just say this. I've had a lot of thoughts about, hey, there's this idea that, well, if Eli can't win the big one, well, you know who could win the big one for Missouri back in the day? It was Al Onofrio, a great coach back in the 70s. You look back at the 1970s, you want to talk about winning and playing in a ton of big games? Well, that was the Al Onofrio era at Missouri. Missouri beat teams like Notre Dame and Alabama and Southern Cal in that era, and yet they would lose somewhat inexplicable games too. And that's the thing that, of course, Eli Drinkwitz has done, is he does beat the teams that he's supposed to beat. When Drinkwitz is a favorite, well, his teams take care of business 90%, 95% of the time. I'm sure there's a small exception there somewhere, but for the most part, that's the reality. But for people who don't give him credit for that, I think you're missing the point a little bit. And the honest reality is, by the way, I actually wrote a column for the Columbia Missourian all the way back in 2004 when Gary Pinkel was kind of under siege. And I wasn't the happiest with Gary Pinkel at that moment because he had taken my beloved Brad Smith and made him into a pocket passer. Well, even then, during that moment, I had to write a column for the Missourian and say, you know what? Missouri, I think the perception was that they had hit its ceiling under Frio. And, of course, his last season, they did win just 2 games, something like that. It was a bad final season there. Missouri decided to move on. The point here is that I advocated that, well, Missouri should have been patient there, actually, with Onofrio, and they should be patient with Pinkel as well. Obviously we don't know what would have happened had Missouri kept Onofrio around, but we do know that when they did move on from him, basically it was 15 to 20 years of complete terrible football and mediocrity at best. So the idea that, hey, things can't get worse, believe me, things can always get worse, especially, again, in the Southeastern Conference where Missouri has just a ton of challenges and always will. Frankly, Missouri fans, if you're feeling a little bit down right now, hey, we're just a couple hours away from Thanksgiving here. Be thankful for what you have because, again, the grass is not always greener on the other side. But I tell you what, with that extra money and the assistant pool, as much support as Missouri and it has right now, I think there's plenty of opportunity to continue to water said grass. Now, frankly, I do understand why Missouri fans are a bit disappointed. The last couple of years, well, the schedule was navigable, without a doubt, and really was an opportunity for Missouri to cash in with a playoff bid, for example. Obviously, Missouri came up a little bit short there. So did Missouri miss a golden opportunity? It's certainly not going to get any easier from here. So let's get into all that here in just a bit. But you know what? The NBA is here and all the way back in full swing at this point. And the best place to get in on the action is, of course, with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And even if you miss the start of the game or you just want to ride a hot hand, well, FanDuel has live bets from everything on who's going to score the next bucket to fourth quarter comebacks. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com right now and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And you know what? The other day, my wife accused me of being tough to shop for. Well, you know what? If you have another person who's tough to shop for in your life, well, the holidays is always easier when you have the perfect gift. And Omaha Steaks almost makes it too simple. Whether you're treating yourself this season or sending something memorable to family and friends, Omaha Steaks delivers handcrafted perfection right to their door. My goodness, what could be better than just a big old box of steaks for the holiday? Who in the world is going to complain about that gift? And by the way, not just steaks, we're talking burgers, comfort meals, sides, desserts. It's one of those gifts that truly fits anyone. So save big on unforgettable gifts with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and an extra 20% off select favorites during their cyber sale and an additional $35 off. Hey, use promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, promo code COLLEGE. Terms apply. See site for details. So one thing to consider, too, if you're a Missouri fan, I just love that the Tigers are seemingly going for it. This entire administration pushing all their chips into the middle of the table, especially on football and men's basketball specifically. And you got to wonder in football, I wonder if the days of dynasties are somewhat over. Not that there's never going to be another back-to-back champion, but the type of run, of course, that Nick Saban on was without precedent anyway. I think even a run like Georgia had just very recently with Kirby Smart obviously winning a couple back-to-back titles and coming pretty close a couple other times too in a few years there. I'm just not sure you're going to see that level of dominance anymore. I think you'll see more like, you know, sort of 2019 LSU that had a super dominant, one of the incredible teams in college football history. But, well, believe it or not, that's the only time that LSU has made the playoff. And speaking of LSU, by the way, if indeed Lane Kiffin decides to go to LSU, and I'm kind of leaning that way at this point, though with Lane, I have absolutely no idea. Maybe he does end up staying at Ole Miss. Maybe Lane truly doesn't even know here with a couple days left until his big announcement here, supposedly. But I'll say this, if Lane leaves, I just think it would be unbelievably unfair to dock Ole Miss in the playoff because of that. I thought the Jordan Travis thing a couple years ago, obviously with Florida State, their quarterback getting hurt before the playoff, well, them getting left out, I thought that was absolutely brutal. It would be a little bit more understandable than a coach, though, I have to say. But, yeah, I just think that if Ole Miss is affected by Lane Kiffin leaving this year, I just think that would be incredibly unfair. But you know what? These past 2 years, by the way, it is possible that Missouri did miss a golden opportunity. We'll just have to see. Only time will tell on that one. I will say that the 26 schedule, 9 games in the SEC, yes, but fortunately, hey, the 100th year of Missouri, of Faurot Field, I should say, and the North End Zone opening, the Centennial Project. Fortunately, SEC threw us a bone and gave us 5 SEC home games versus 4 on the road. So that's better. It's better than it could have been because 2027 with 5 SEC road games and not a gimme in the lot of them. Pretty much all blue blood programs, and it's going to be blue bloods galore for Missouri as SEC opponents from 27 to 29. So indeed, if you're a little disappointed that Missouri didn't take what certainly was a golden opportunity here, I understand. But once again, at the end of the day, you just got to keep plowing forward with Eli Drinkwitz. Are there things that can change? Are there things that can be looked at on the margins that can make Missouri a little bit more competitive? Of course. But the idea that, oh, well, Missouri, we're overestimating Drinkwitz, all that kind of stuff. Again, I don't think he's perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Missouri can definitely do things better. I've had plenty of criticisms for him on this show, but to the idea that, we can just go out and find a better game day coach and this will all be fine. I just think that Missouri, once again, has been outperforming what you would expect it to do based on its own level of spending, based on its own level of fan interest, which is clearly down at the bottom of the league. The fact that Drinkwitz is outperforming all that, obviously you got to stay the course. And I'm glad that Missouri basically seemingly has done whatever it takes to do so. And by the way, thanks for joining me here again on this special edition of Locked On Mizzou. I definitely did whatever it takes to get out a podcast at the expense of my family here tonight. Hopefully my wife has not divorced me just yet. But you know what? As always, thanks for being here on the show, and enjoy your family, enjoy your Thanksgiving. I am thankful for all of you. Once again, I'm John Miller, and this has been Locked On Mizzou.